That's right. We're on like the same schedule, I think, and then neither like.
Good morning, everybody. Morning. Welcome to this meeting of the Central Otago District Council. Good to see everybody here. So just to, if we can open please with the karakia. Tony's going to help me out with that. Thank you.
Kia ora te marino, kia whakapapa tau namu te moana. Hei hoa rahi mā tātou e tēnei rā, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou kia tātou katoa. Omie, uie, taiki.
Right, first item on our agenda is apologies, and we have apologies from His Worship the Mayor, Councillors McKinlay, Patterson and Barrett. Someone moved that they be moved. Secretary Tony, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Start now with first other item on the agenda is our public forum, and we have two who speak this morning. So first is Ken Churchill, who wants to talk to us about the Half Mile Reserve. So Ken, you take a seat. You know the drill for this.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
I didn't come down here, poke stacking anybody, but I just always not a plot, just so people know what things will stop first, but don't. Kia ora, Mr. Chairman, fellow councillors. You will all be pleased we've moved on from the felling of our trees, albeit they gave us shade as an amenity. The contractor failed 8 times in adhering to the statement of work, ranging from hours of work, ground repatriation, hinge wedge mitigation, etc., through to the total failure of not removing the slash and chip. We have been left with mountains of slash and chip and whole felled trees, butts and stumps. On top of the trip hazards and impalement hazards, there's clearly a fire risk, as now cigarettes and vaping are banned. I can't find any other council reserves where this applies apart from kids' playgrounds. The CWG has informed us that there's way too much chip for the replant. We were told over and over and over again it would be removed off site. It was in the statement of work to do this. Your website repeated this for months. Check out the YouTube videos of your meeting. The Lizard report sought by the council reiterated this. However, your lizard expert, Sean, at an extra cost of around $20,000, saw it differently. Why pay for an expert's report just to shelve it? This is our money and all of us probably in this room. Now that the approved $180,000 won't be spent in whole or in part, there should be plenty for the removal of the slash and chip. There must have been a destination for this green waste, otherwise the people would have been so front and centre in all the statements about removal. The credibility of your written word is seriously flawed. Why would anyone believe what's written on your website and hugely expensive billboards right now? Likewise, the Mistral redevelopment plan is sold to the community 2 years at the drop-in cost around 10K, I understand, appears to also be kicked into touch. More of our precious rates. Where's the shelter belts and the shade? 5,000 grasses a year won't afford much shade or shelter unless you're from Lilliput. All of these expenses are incredibly wasteful. This is a recreation reserve, not a nature one. Now you've banned bikes, particularly mountain bikes. Where's the consultation with the community as a reserve management plan affords us? But hats off to all the volunteers doing what we were told was a commercial venture. I just can't see people removing whole trees, etc. manually. And good luck planting out without a water supply. This reserve is still surrounded by pines. There's actually 46 still in the reserve. And they look like, without their companion, they will eventually fall onto my neighbour's house. As predicted, chopping down the planted shelter belt has caused the loss of neighbouring trees that were stable for decades. I've been told to hold my horses by a councillor, but the net result and legacy is we can't walk, run or bike like we used to due to hazards as mentioned. If you want to have the community on board about so-called rolling pines, then please do as you said you would and remove the slash and chip so we can all enjoy our reserves safely once again. Anyone who thinks this mess is okay, slow right down as you drive down the hill from the south after the Alex sign and take a long hard look.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Would you be able to make a copy of those words available for us, please?
Sure, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll get a copy of them on the way out if you want to keep that.
that's okay.
You sure?
Just for your info, on the back, I've underlined all the breaches of the contract. If it's of any interest.
Thank you. Any questions for Ken? Thanks, Ken. Appreciate you coming in to express your concerns and we'll pass them on and.
Okay, thanks, Neil.
I'm good. I'm done to get take a piece of wood with it.
Well, again, actually, because I've actually got thousands to look at out in the window.
Excellent. Right, I will do it. Thanks.
Actually, you can donate it to the mayor if you like.
I'll let you do that when it comes back. Righto, thanks. Is it Sean or saying Sean? Sean Rowland from Land Pros. Welcome, Sean.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you know how this process works, but 5 minutes for you to make your presentation to us, and there may or may not be some questions.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors. My name is Sean Rowton. I'm a licensed professional surveyor at Land Pro. I'm here today on behalf of AJ and JS Hamilton family to address the application to form a legal paper road between Hawkesbury Road and the southern boundary of the property. The summary will provide an overview of the key points for the application and the context surrounding it. The application we present today follows a detailed process that began over 2 years ago. It's important to understand the context background that led to this application. Site consists of section 9 SO 2476 and block 5 DP 332099 known as the site, encompasses an area of 3,868 hectares. It was subject to resource consent in April 2021. A subsequent variation to this consent in January 2022 identified the need to include section 9 SO 24276 as part of the subject site, which is an 8 hectare strip, which is segmented by the bannockburn that runs through the property. Consequently, 4 new lots were required in total, lots 1 and 4, which will be amalgamated together, and lots 2 and 3 being amalgamated together. The legal paper road is located through section 2, block 6, Bannockburn Survey District, which is part of the Hawkesbury Station pastoral lease. This legal paper road is the only practical way to access this part of the site, just because of the topography of the surrounding area. There's an existing four drive track from Hawkesbury Road to the site. An existing alignment of four-wheel drive track has remained unchanged since the aerial images dating back to 1958. There was a survey position of the gate at the boundary of the site, and this aligns with the field books dating back to 1910, proving that the existing track that was surveyed agrees with the legal paper road. We've obtained the engineering approval in April 2022. The condition 5 required a license to occupy over the legal paper road. It was later confirmed by Mick Sparrow, Council's roading service officer, that a forming of the legal road would be required and not a license to occupy. Written approval was required from both Hawkesbury Station period of the lease and Linz. I'd like to note that the applicant's contractor began earthworks on the legal paper road prior to obtaining approval, forming the legal road. The contractor was instructed to stop work immediately and leave site until approval from council to form the legal road was obtained. After requesting approval to forming the legal road, Hawkesbury Station portfolio manager requested that an easement over the Crown pastoral land was required for the existing all-drive track outside of the digitalised road boundaries and into Hawkesbury Station. Following this, an easement application was then submitted to LINZ for processing. A LINZ accredited supplier, Jeff Reedy, had reviewed the survey data provided by me and recommended to update the spatial representation of the legal road to align with the accurate road's position following the existing all-drive track. LINZ had agreed with the conclusion, and a letter labelled status of the road through Hawkesbury Station pastoral lease is held on record with LINZ. The proposed formation of the legal road would closely follow the existing four-wheel drive track, incorporating well-bound and durable surface, improving visibility through the tree removal and compliant entrance at the intersection with Hawkesbury Road. These actions will enhance safety and visibility for road users. I would like to draw the attention to key considerations in Central Otago District Council's roading policy. The purpose of forming the legal road is to provide legal access to the proposed lots 2 and 3, which will be managed together, ensuring they're not landlocked. There are no feasible alternative access options for lots 2 and 3, given the site's topography. The northern portion of the property will have remain access through Cornish Point Road, while lots 2 and 3 require access from the legal paper road. There are no existing improvements within the legal paper road.
Mr. Ralph, there's the 5 minutes up, so if you can wrap it up, please, as soon as you can.
Okay. Consultation with the relevant parties, LINZ and Mr. McElroy, who Hawkesbury Station has taken place. LINZ wished to reserve their response until Mr. McElroy had voiced his concerns. It's important to note that there is an objection from Mr. McElroy with forming the legal paper road. He has not provided a reason why he objects to forming the legal paper road. I have asked for the reasons why, and he's provided, and same with Quinton Peniel has asked it, and no reasons why. In conclusion, we respectfully request your consideration to approve application for the formation of legal paper road. This request aligns with council's policies and will provide access to the proposed lots, forming a road that has historically served this site. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ralph. Any questions from councillors?
I just have one, sorry. Have you had any contact directly with the owner of Hawkesbury, or has all of the communication gone through these little stages? Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. As you're aware, we were considering this in our meeting later on as agenda item 23.10.5, which is timetable for 11:10 a.m. Just don't hold your breath for that. We're known to run late before. Okay, that concludes the public forum. Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held back here to get it, the 7th of September. Someone like to move? Tamer, seconded Sarah, all in favour?
Aye.
Against carried, thank you. And just then item number 23.10.1, declarations of interest. The register is in the agenda, just to remind you to stand clear of anything that may cause you a conflict as a member. Are we happy with what's in there so far? Cool, right, move on to that then. And then we'll now move to the community vision and experience part of our meeting and agenda item 23.10.2, and I'll hand over to Tamer.
Thank you very much. Linda, welcome.
Hi. I'll take the report as being read and just give you a quick recap. We're asking what I'd like. Lot 801, DP 590724 vested in council on deposit X stage 3B of the Worm Tree resource consent. That has vested in council as a local purpose pedestrian underpass reserve. Because the development is staged, when that vested in council, it vested with an easement in favour of lot 601. Effectively, it is called a support easement, and basically it means that it has a wall on it which holds up the land as you obviously go down before you come up. So it holds up the land either side of the exit from the underpass. Because it was staged, the two lots on the other side, lot 604 and lot 807, did not vest in council or weren't available at that time for having the other side of the easement, the support easement, registered on it. So assuming that you are happy to accept those two support easements being on there, I would ask you to grant the Minister of Conservation's consent to a support easement over lot 801 in favour of lot 604 and a support easement being registered over lot 801 in favour of lot 807. Does anybody have any questions?
Cool. All right. Thank you. Right, the recommendations. Receiving the report and accepts the level of significance, and B, to grant pursuant to the instrument of delegation, the Minister of Conservation's consent to the granting of those two support easements that Linda has talked about. Thank you, Stu, move it, and Sarah second it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Linda. We now move to page number 29, item 23.10.3, the Welcoming Communities 6 monthly report. Heather and Paula, welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having us. I'd like to introduce to you Heather Harries. Heather joined us as our Welcoming Communities Officer in May. Heather was part of our advisory group anyway, so she was well versed in the projects that we were in the development of our welcome. So we are we're delighted to have a really seamless transition. So Heather's just going to talk through the report and what's been happening. Thank you.
A requisite of the Welcoming Communities programme is to report to the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment every 6 months. I would like to take this opportunity to review the highlights of the report submitted in July of this year. The report demonstrated programmes undertaken during the first half of 2023 and then went on to outline what was planned for the second half of the year. Wellbeing and mental health have become the new buzzwords of the 21st century, and for good reason. Without wellbeing, there's suffering, with negative consequences for our economy. Welcoming Communities strives to make our newcomers feel a sense of belonging, which in due course enables a thriving economy. The purpose of this presentation is to draw attention to the relevance of Welcoming Communities and its welcoming plan within Central Otago. All actions are set alongside the 8 Welcoming Community standards with a view to delivering tangible, positive outcomes. Ultimately, Welcoming Communities strives for leadership within our communities with the belief that this enhances self-sustainable initiative. The Alexandra and Cromwell Newcomers networks are excellent examples of this. The Alexandra and Cromwell Newcomer Network Facebook pages combined have over 600 followers, and the Alexandra emailing list has grown to over 70 subscriptions within a year. Events in Alexandra this year alone have included a family picnic, a movie night, a wine tasting event, 2 curling events, 2 gatherings at Paulina's, and another 2 at Monteith's. Another admirable example of inclusive leadership has been the creation of a migrant families support network instigated by Central Otago REAP. The exorbitant cost of living and the housing shortage crisis means that the moving to New Zealand is rarely the dream our new migrants had in mind. Add into the mix the language barrier, culture shock, And sadly, the racism that persists in some pockets of our community, and many of our new migrants are struggling both financially and mentally. As a response to this, a wide range of stakeholders have been meeting every 2 weeks to support new migrants by creating links to social services, providing food parcels and budget advice, finding housing, enabling access to English lessons, and creating cohesion between workplaces and education facilities. Entrepreneurship is another fundamental component to a flourishing economy. The partnership with Business South has seen 2 more newcomers to Central Otago receive scholarships for the Leadership Academy, which will take place in November. Supporting our newcomers to lead the way in business will undoubtedly boost morale and confidence. In the words of Kofi Annan, knowledge is power, information is liberating, education is the premise of progress in every society, in every family. With this in mind, Welcoming Communities launched a range of cultural capability workshops in Alexandra during Welcoming Week. Approximately 80 Central Otago residents attended these workshops, including volunteers and educators, to name a few. Evaluations of the workshops demonstrated that over 3/4 of our community felt that the content delivered was essential, and as a result, there has been an expression of interest to extend cultural capability education to Roxburgh and Cromwell. I would like to highlight one workshop which was delivered to approximately 25 new migrants. The 100% positive feedback highlights the fundamental need for these conversations to continue to promote healthy workplaces. The phrases self-relief and work easier underscore that up until these conversations were had, there was anxiety and concern within their workplaces due to lack of understanding of the Kiwi way. B. Mackay drew attention to the significance of the settlement curve. Regardless of whether a newcomer is a fellow Kiwi or a migrant from halfway across the globe, there is always a settlement process. Welcoming Communities strives to make the dip as quick and as insignificant as possible. As the baby boomers exit the workforce and the birth rate declines, our economy needs newcomers to fill the void within the care worker and hospitality sectors. Trends show that if our newcomers stay in the feeling down phase too long, they will move away, and their employer is bearing the brunt of the recruitment costs. For a stable economy, our newcomers must want to stay. In order to encourage civic engagement amongst our ESOL migrants, Lessons at REAP have been used as a platform to carry out the resident survey and encourage participation in both local and national elections. Surveys and elections are often out of reach for this demographic due to the language barrier, but by making civic engagement a focus within these lessons, we're hearing the voices and opinions of our new migrants, a necessary component to feeling a sense of belonging. This platform will be used to involve our new migrants in the Shaping Together Tomorrow Wellbeing Project and the Open Spaces Survey. Another profound relationship has developed between Welcoming Communities and Seasonal Solutions, called the Seasonal Staff Monarchy. This initiative has seen the Nivan community become increasingly included in our community. The Nivan String Band played at Monteith on Saturday evening and raised over $1,000 for cyclone relief. Primary-aged children are creating posters to welcome back the seasonal workers for the second year running, and it cannot be denied that the Pacific Afloat was a highlight to the Blossom Festival parade. The work goes deeper than the superficial, with day-to-day welfare needs being addressed amongst a wide range of stakeholders. The involvement of the Filipino float and the Chinese dragons in this year's Blossom Festival has already seen positive ripples within the Central Otago community. I teach English to a number of Indian women at Ranumi Rest Home. who said that watching the different cultures participate in the parade has motivated them to get involved next year. It was clear that witnessing other ethnicities share their heritage has given them the courage to do the same. This public celebration of diversity is fundamental to the well-being and unity of our community. The Pacifica Dance and Cultural Workshop has received substantial attention in the press. This event was a collaboration between Pacifica Central Otago REAP and Welcoming Communities. The atmosphere was relaxed and festive, but was more than just light-hearted entertainment. Attendants learned about artifacts on display and the skill involved in their creation. Pacifica food and drinks were shared, and everyone came away with a new Pacifica dance routine under their belts. This event united a range of cultures and also generations, from toddlers to high school students and senior citizens. Finally, there is one sure way to get noticed, and that is to create a multicultural mural on a sleepy building on the outskirts of Cromwell. In another part of the world, a mural depicting the portraits of people from a range of ethnic backgrounds would probably go relatively unnoticed. However, in Central Otago 2023, it is still groundbreaking, and it has caught the attention of our community with a resoundingly positive response. This mural represents a flux of change within Central Otago and emphasises the necessity to keep stepping into this space. The mural was completed in May, and the celebration is going to take place on the 12th of November in conjunction with Bislama Language Week, an official language of Vanuatu. This will see our communities come together with a blessing, a range of speakers, and a game of volleyball and football to follow. The Welcoming Communities movement is gathering momentum, and this is good news. The motto, no matter what language you speak, who you worship, or where you were born, we're glad you're here, could not be more relevant in this troubled world. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Heather. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Aside from me? Right. I loved to see the stuff around the English language, because we've had a lot of families arrive at our local schools where the kids don't speak any English at all, which has a substantial impact. So loving seeing that. The multicultural floats were amazing. I can't wait to see more next year. And I know Marty was on board with that as well. I just had one question around the Presbyterian support workers who are coming in from overseas, and just wondered how much support, monetary or otherwise, you have been receiving from Presbyterian support for that work.
I'm not sure in terms of monetary support, but certainly they are very much part of the group that meets every 2 weeks. So we meet with the employers, and with that we're also meeting with the principals from the schools that their children are involved in. And Family Works comes to those meetings. Yeah, so there's a lot of time that's being spent. I can't balance exactly how much money, but I can look into that.
It would just be good, I think, for that acknowledgement that there is a social responsibility if you are bringing in staff from another country to help support them become integrated in the community.
They certainly are helping them in terms of giving them the time to get their IRD numbers, making sure that they've got advocates when they go to the bank.
Yeah.
All that kind of thing is definitely being helped.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And on that, can I have someone recommend that the report be received? Thank you, Martin. Seconded Ian. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Much appreciated. Hand back to you.
Thank you, Taylor. Now we're going to move on to the Three Waters and Waste portfolio, and I'll hand over to Cheryl to take us through agenda item 23.10.4.
Thank you. So that is on page 40. And so we have the October waste water compliance status update. Then we've got Patrick and Funky.
I'll take the report as brief, but still brief overview. This through September, we did see a significant increase in our audits. The onboarding of new staff and staff getting up to speed on the training meant that we were able to audit all 7 wastewater sites and 6 of the 8 water treatment sites in that month. And we expect that to continue to increase with the adding on of the wastewater pump stations over time. They don't need to be done as frequently, but we are definitely seeing that training and that staffing making a real difference in that space. For each of the sites where we have abatement notices, I'll go through quickly what's going on there. So at our Alexandra site, we have seen a reduction in alkalinity since the Lake Dunstan water supply came online. And that does have an impact on the bugs, so on the treatment of the plant. We have been managing that with dosing to bring that alkalinity back up. And we're currently looking at a permanent solution for sustained management of that alkalinity. We did see in our October compliance sample, we were non-compliant for pH and total suspended solids. And that is, we believe, is linked to the change in alkalinity. We're just waiting on resample results from that since we did the dosing. Cromwell, as discussed last time, we did receive a 12-month extension on our abatement notice at Cromwell. And we're expecting the report for options, nitrogen removal by December. So that will help us then, we'll have a path on where we're going to. We did see some good response during the heavy rainfall in the catchment in September. We were watching the plant really closely because previously when we've had heavy rainfall, it has resulted in overflows from the treatment plant. But with the upgrades that we've done over the past 24 months, we did see better efficiency of the plant and we did not have an overflow, so that was really great. Roxburgh, the tender for the desludging is currently out and it closes on the 3rd of November. And once that is in place, we'll be looking at doing additional monitoring during the desludging and afterwards to understand if the desludging has made a difference on our nitrogen levels there. Naseby and Rainfurley, we're currently doing an interstage sampling program that will run for 3 months. That was a recommendation from the consultant to get a better understanding of where in our treatment processes we might be having issues and where we might need to focus resources. So that is ongoing. That is it. So the attachment provides an overview of how we're tracking with the work that we've identified that needs to be done. But I'll hand over to any questions.
Any questions? Emma.
That change in the alkalinity, is that good, bad, otherwise? Expected or not unexpected?
So it was, we did know that obviously with the change in hardness of the water, we would see a change in the alkalinity. It does have an impact on the bugs. Essentially, the bugs have an ideal range where they like to be living in, and so it does impact the bugs, which then can impact the treatment, the denitrification largely. So that's why we need to be doing that dosing to balance it and get it back to a healthy range for the bugs.
So do other places where their water's also not hard, do they dose as well, or do they have different bakers, or?
It depends on a lot of the other inputs of the waste, because it's a biological process. It depends what's happening in your network. Like, for example, when you've got lots of vineyards putting their materials in, there's different aspects of how the treatment deals with what's coming in. So that's why sampling and understanding what's going on with your plant is so important. There would be an expectation that something would change, so we've monitored it. And you just have to react to it.
Yeah, and that's just kind of an ongoing thing. We'll just keep sampling and keep dosing depending on what it looks like on the day. Perfect. And the only other comment I had was around that additional flows during the heavy rainfall events, and finally some good news. Well done.
Neil.
So just a bit more on that question about the change in the water. I guess it's to do with the base water before it gets the bad stuff out, so the source water. So I guess we've got a source water in Cromwell, which is groundwater largely going through,
We've actually got bore trials happening at the moment,
so that,
adjacent to the current bores that are there. So we're going to do water sampling for that and check characteristics, because the two bores that are there now are actually quite different.
yeah,
The one on the upper terrace is harder, and the ones close to the lake is softer water. So we need to test so that we can understand and put that into our design for how we treat that water.
was also a board that was quite high in manganese up there at one stage too, wasn't it? I think going back, probably one.
Some areas have exhibited that, but that's why we're doing.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying is that then even within a couple hundred metres, you get different quality water out of the bore. So, yeah, and none of our bore water is the same. Okay,
Correct.
makes sense.
I suppose one comment I'd like to make is that you should have a bit more confidence now with the level of auditing that's being done. We've got a specific employee that's working on that pretty much every day. She's been upskilled, she's learned what she needs to look for, and she's just, as she understands the network and the plant, she's getting to be able to go to a better level of detail. So we're sort of in front of things. I mean, it is part of the contractor's job to do that, and they're doing their monthly checks and all that, but you should have a bit more confidence that we've got people out there that are council employees and are looking at it from our perspective.
Any further questions? Can I have a mover please to receive this report? Okay, have Emma and Sally. All those in favour? Aye. No, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on now to agenda item 23.10.5, it's under roading portfolio, promotion of legal road management, councillor Bacon.
Very much, Neil. Welcome QP. This has come back to us after we look at it last time, so. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll take the report as read. So this was left to lie on the table. So whilst the applicant had made contact with Lynn's and the leaseholder, council directly had not had contact with those parties. So following that meeting, we made contact with the parties. Lynn with not making comments and directed us to the leaseholder through their lawyer. We made contact through their lawyer as directed to, and requested comments in regards to the objection that they provided the applicant, and they sent a letter back to council objecting to the formation of that road, but no further correspondence as to why was received. And just referring back to the roading policy, so there is information, so the applicant has provided information around the reason requiring access and details around the need to form that, and there is no other formal access to that property in question. They have worked with Lynn's throughout the process to align the legal road corridor to where that track, existing track lies. And then through this process, they will be upgrading that track to the relevant council standard to continue to provide access to that property. So, and the reason it is before council is because of that party objecting. So I'll hand back to the chair for any questions.
Yes. Any questions? Damon.
I've just got one that I just want some clarity for my mind, which is on page 199. And it talks about the applicant is responsible for maintaining the road in the future to a safe standard. If council does not believe the condition of the road, blah, 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 we can fix it and charge them. If the applicant subsequently sells the land, is that condition attached to the title?
It will be yes, because it is a private, they're forming within our bounds. So there is a level of responsibility, and that maintains that level of responsibility in terms of that piece of road.
So whoever buys the land in the future will know that they are responsible for maintaining that land.
Yeah, and through this process, we'll make sure that it's registered as consent notice.
Will you consent notice or will it be a letter?
Sorry, on the one.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I wasn't trying to correct it. I have my mind limited there.
Yeah, but any, there is a level of responsibility of anyone that forms road without on legal road boundary, whilst it is private until it reaches a trigger point, on a number of properties being served by that, there is responsibilities, outlined in the road policy and with doing that road. For anyone in that instance, and there's a number of crossing road.
No.
Can I just follow up on that, because it's interesting, because there's countless legal roads where, through farms in particular, where the farm has an access track. And there will be none of this have ever gone on, because it's never been done. And as long as they were going to go checking on them all to make sure it's any safer than it needs to be for rather use that centre board. Because if we are, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Going through all the pack tracks and stuff that are around the place and different roads. The key thing is here is that we held this over because we want to be very, very sure that we had done our bit in terms of our policy, which was to check with affected parties. They've come back through their lawyers saying, we object. What's the process now? We don't know what the before, so let's say we go ahead and make the approve the recommendations. Is there an appeal right or something they've got, do you know?
Not through the roading policy. However, we have, as roading officers, assessed this application, and see no reason why, it should not be granted.
I guess it's for you, Chair, that they could do a judicial review of the decision if they so wish.
But they have had opportunity for their lawyer.
Plenty.
It'd be interesting to see if given that they are the leaseholder as opposed to the landowner, because it's part of the lease. So, no, I'm happy, thanks.
Any other questions? Right, shall we have our recommendations A, B and C? What's somebody moving? Martin, second, Tamer, all those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Those against, carried. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Stu. And we'll move to agenda item 23.10.6, which is plan change 18, ratification of the independent commissioner's decision. And, man, I thought I'd seen you come in. Where I thought you went. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank
It's
you.
been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming. It's taken a while. I'll just do a brief run through, hopefully you get a chance to read the report. So the proposal, plan change 18 was a proposal to rezone an area of land between the existing industrial zone in Cromwell and the Shaker Vegetable Reserve. There's also an additional area owned by Ceres Orchard between the cemetery land and State Highway 6, also proposed to be rezoned. The proposed rezoning came out of the Cromwell spatial plan, so it's been in the mix since about 2018 when that document was released and adopted by council. PC 18 was notified in October of 2021, so we are covering it pretty fine in terms of this 2-year process that we have to consider these matters. We have 9 original submissions and 4 further submissions. The 2 main ones that we were working with the submitters were Waka Kotahi and the Department of Conservation. Waka Kotahi, we started working with them prior to notification of the plan change regarding understanding what the impacts of the proposed plan change would be on the intersections of Cemetery Road, McNulty Road and the State Highway 6. The work was quite ongoing, so we notified the plan change and then continued to work with them. Council engaged Evely to undertake some modelling of what that might look like. In terms of the impact on that intersections and what upgrading work might be required, if any. After 18 months to 2 years of working with Waka Kotahi, Evely's managed to persuade them through their modelling, her transportation modellers, that there would be no impact on those intersections that wouldn't be as a result of BAU growth. So Waka Kotahi indicated that they were happy with the outcome of that modelling and that they wouldn't be attending the hearing. So we managed to persuade them of that through the modelling that was done. Department of Conservation, similarly, there were some concerns that it is a somewhat unique site. It's wedged hard up against the Shaker Beetle Reserve, and there were some significant concerns raised by the Department of Conservation, who initially were requesting a 25-metre setback. over a 1,000 metre boundary, that's a lot of area, so that's 2.5 hectares that would have been undevelopable. At the hearing, the Department of Conservation provided evidence, legal submissions, evidence from a technical expert scientist, and also planning evidence. The Shaker beetle is a critically endangered species and therefore protected under a number of pieces of legislation. The primary concern regarding the Shaker beetle habitat was around effects of edge effects generated by buildings coming closer to it. Runoff, shading, particularly during the winter months, because the development area would be on the north of it, so significant areas of the Shaker beetle reserve habitat would be shaded if there were buildings built right up to the 5 metre setback that's required under the district plan. During the hearing, the Commissioner asked that I was the reporting planner, that I went away with the docket planner and see if we could come to some agreement about how we could resolve the issues, because the 25 metre setback was not going to be a particularly easy one to manage. Even the 25 metre setback in terms of suppression of weeds, there's a whole lot of other issues, even if that was in place. So we again engaged Ablees to have a look at it for us. Ablees came up with an indicative roading network. There's currently no plans for the future subdivision of this area. So what Ablees have come up with is an indicative roading structure which utilises that area for a road. So it will be the main road coming in off Cemetery Road, running the van. So it'll end up being road reserve. Development of those areas, development of land, I understand is around 8% is taken up in terms of roading and infrastructure when they're developing large areas like that. So it was found to be a good option in terms of using that for road instead of it just being a setback area with no particular use. The indicative roading structure also feeds into the existing network coming off Cemetery Road. So there's two arms that come off it. So I think the future subdivision can be designed around that. The Commissioner was happy with that outcome as a proposal, and he's made a recommendation that it be approved on that basis. Letting the future subdivision on that land be subject to design around that infrastructure, that road, indicative roading network. Have you taken any questions?
Questions?
Did there need to be an indicative, there's no indicative roading infrastructure for that other piece of land that sits up above this one?
No.
That'll just be what it'll be at the time.
Yeah, it was just because of the Shaker beetle reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting picture. We've learned a lot more about it here.
On that note, I have an additional question.
Yeah, I was gonna have one too. What are they like for fishing?
Did you, during the process, do you happen to know how many beetles there are in the reserve?
Yeah.
No, I don't. But what I do know is that they live underground. They only come up at night for mating purposes, and that's why.
Sounds like they live in a true herd.
And that's why light spill's an issue for them. So light spill at night becomes an issue in terms of that. What Doc have said is that because they live in the gravel, it's the soils underneath us, so they live in that gravelly area. So when they actually go to look at where they are, they actually destroy the habitat. So it's really quite a delicate way of doing it. But they know that there's some there. But the other problem they've got is there's spiders, rednecks in there. So. And they think, they're using the rabbit holes and things, so, but they're not really sure. But they are sure that there's some there. But every time they get a test or monitor, they actually destroy the habitat. So that's why the edge effects are particularly important, because any runoff from buildings or anything like that, or any change caused by buildings being close to the boundary, does affect the climate there in the habitat. So they're just trying to minimise.
So do the spiders have any impact on the habitat? Or do they poison them? The spiders, the beetles.
Yeah.
So isn't that just nature at work?
It's not.
More than invasive, yes.
It's probably not relevant for the main change.
Well, it's interesting though.
But, and also not relevant, I'm gonna ask anyway, is that have Doc given any indication that they're gonna do something more about, I guess, assisting the community to better understand what's happening in the choke beetle space? Because
Yes.
there's be fair to say that a lot of people out there have got no idea, so there's no beetles or flora, as I've heard today. And don't actually understand what you've just learned, so hopefully there's an opportunity out of this process that Doc might better inform. the community
Definitely,
what's going
so, there is one area that I should have pointed out, there is one area, between Bannockburn Road, it's a 20 metre wide strip, 120 metres long, it's just past where the high transmission pylon is, because we can't put a road through there, obviously. So we've removed that from the industrial zone, so it's an area of about 2,400 square metres. And Doc's really, really keen to set up some kind of reserve area and like a sort of education place with information for people to understand a bit more about it, so.
Are the dung beetles in that spot too?
Pardon?
Are they bedded?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they like a dung beetle, they just go underground and do the thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Any more questions?
No.
Right, recommendation on page 275 is that we receive the report, accept the recommendations, serve some copies of the decision, copy notifier, and provide a copy to every local district. Someone want to move, please? Martin, seconded, Tamer, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Anne. Roll on plan change 19.
Yes. That sounds interesting.
All right, we'll move on now to item 23.10.7, which is our, we've got a number of policies to go through. The first of them would appear to be our media policy. So, Paula, hi.
Right. You've got Paula and me because I'm now back. But,
Welcome back.
great, it's Friday, yeah, we're going to go to Nakato, go on a tax online. We're here today to renew our media policy. You've got me to discuss the more policy side of things, and then Paula will take you through the policy itself. So this policy has undergone a full rewrite with input across the whole communications and engagement team. It's a consolidation of the media policy and the social media policy. However, we have changed the content quite significantly, not in ways that really make material changes, but we've taken out a lot of procedural elements and moved them into the procedural space. It's linked across our significance and engagement work. And our complaint suite, which are both currently under review. So these three pieces of work will very much speak to each other, and you can expect to see those in meeting over the next 6 months or so. It does not have elected members, and all provisions for elected members media are within your own code of conduct, but we don't think there's anything here that would very much differ from these approaches anyway. It's not drawn from any specific act, but it is linked across several, obviously the Local Government Act always, the Lagoon Act, the Public Records Act, and when we wrote the social media part, we leaned really heavily into a harmful Digital Communications Act, just because we weren't comfortable putting in those limits on speech that we made up ourselves. So we've linked them directly to the work that came out with the Christchurch Court. And there's just one particular area that's new to note, that this policy does set an expectation of transparency and communication, including noting that if there's ever a situation where you're leaning on whether or not to communicate, and the evidence is sort of stacked either way, that the policy has a preference for open communication. And we'll just talk you through this table.
And basically, our purpose with this media policy is to recognise the value of media and media platforms in our work, to maximise its use to get the greatest reach through the media and media platforms, and to provide a framework that makes it straightforward for staff to be able to use the options that we have. Our goal is to make sure that we're explaining what we are doing and how we do it to try and build trust and understanding in our communities, and to conduct ourselves in a way that reflects our organisational values and that we can be proud of.
Thank you. Any questions? I've got one. Doesn't apply to elected members, but it doesn't actually say that.
It doesn't, but it does.
Yeah.
We were a bit weaselly and used
every person who works for council, knowing that you don't technically work for council, but we can make it stronger for you if you like.
I guess,
You're only considered an employee in any circumstance as a contractor under the Health, Safety and Wellbeing Act. In all other circumstances, if we refer to people conducting business on behalf of council, elected members don't meet that definition.
if I can put a comment about the fact that we've got our own guidelines policy to follow, but I'm just wondering if this should say elected members are governed elsewhere. So it's quite clear. I don't want people to think we're not buying into it because it reflects what, as you said, it reflects what we've got anyway. But I think it might be better to have those words saying elected members have their own to comply with or whatever, just to make sure it's quite clear. And that way we're not doing anything that sort of says, well, if you go read into it and understand the meaning of the words, it's quite clear that we're governed elsewhere. But and then maybe where we're governed elsewhere, it should be there say have regard to this policy to tie us back in that way.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that it's so. Does that make sense? Stu, you're pondering, Stu. Don't worry. Any other questions?
But
Right, let's go to page 312, recommendations A and B. See the report and adopts the 3-year term. Is there a soft review on this one or not?
No, it's a very
It says go bang 3 years straight into it. Right.
it's just like, I guess, what if you feel there is misinformation? And it might be about the manufacturing or something like that, or not enough knowledge of understanding, or you know, you could say, oh, the effluent runoff and the manufacturing is all from dairy runoff, but it's not relevant because you don't know. How do you pull that back into line? I mean, a lot of people's statement, whichever side of the spectrum are on the green movement, whatever, like how agriculture sometimes feels it's being misinterpreted or misled in the media. How do you right the wrong, I guess I'm saying?
Somebody's commenting on the Facebook in the media.
Yeah, like you might get it in to go minimum flow, and then all of a sudden degradation of the water quality and the manufacturing, all related because of. Well, actually, it hasn't been proven or whatever, so it's the same thing. It's a false, sometimes it could be seen as a false accusation or not having accuracy. We can't do anything about that.
Sort of three different ends. That is, the first is the work that Paula's team does, building the relationships with media to be able to get those corrections outside of the legal framework. Then there is a legal framework that governs media themselves and the Press Council and places that we can complain, and us, these teams can take complaints on your behalf and work you through that process. The third is when those comments are coming up on our social media, and that's where we've really tied into this Harmful Digital Communications Act, which does include misinformation. And when we bring you the unreasonable behaviour clause as part of the complainant conduct work through our complaints policy, it's got 5 categories in there, which does include unreasonable arguments and a series of ways that will be responding to those. It's quite detailed, and we've developed it under the guidelines of the Ombudsman, because we expect a person who's putting misinformation on the internet likely is well aware of that series of rights. So it's in its last stages, and I'm hoping to have achieved Q1 next year.
All right, someone want to move them? Martin was looking at me first, I wasn't sure why, but anyway, and then Sarah had her hand up behind him, so Martin and Sarah, all in favour? Yes, carried. Righto. Item 23.10.8 is our revised risk management policy. Team change. Welcome. Amelia with Saskia.
Some familiar.
So for the risk management policy, we went to audit risk committee in September, and there were a few minor changes that we made to that policy prior to submission to this forum. The main change from the previous risk management policy is that this is a well-rounded framework that considers 4 main pillars of risk management. So it looks at the management of key risks, which are previously known as strategic risks, operational risks, project risks, and operational risk defence as well. So all of those sources of information should work together to give us a really good overview and insight into the risks that we face.
Any questions from you then? It's been to audit and risk, that doesn't mean that's right, but we've had a level of scrutiny and a few changes that come out of that. Anyone else got any questions?
I'll move it.
You move it, Stu. All right, someone will second it. Ian, you look at me quicker than anybody else. Was in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. That was too easy. Righto, we'll now move into agenda item number 23.10.9, and that is the revised procurement policy. Oh, sorry, one question, just go back. You had review dates to be TBC. Will they now come out for TBCs and be confirmed?
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. Thank you. So, yeah, procurement policy.
So the procurement policy has undergone quite a significant review. And again, was presented to the Ordinance Committee in September. And the main differences you'll see from the previous procurement policy, the first is that it's no longer 66 pages long. So it's a much more concise document. One of the main changes is that we've increased the market tender threshold from $50,000 to $200,000. And that just represents a number of things. So the increase in the market interest in tender opportunities is pretty low, you under $300,000. And it opens up opportunities for some small firms who may not want to go down the process of a tender, that might be a bit complicated for them, but are happy to provide us with comprehensive quotes. So that's one of the main changes. Others are that we've split the process clearly into standard and non-standard approaches. So there are different ways to get approval. So anything under 200,000, we'd be looking at 3 quotes, and anything over that would be a tender process. And that would be a standard approach. Non-standard, many ways that we could go about engaging suppliers, but we just have to get the right approvals. So if we get our plans will be documented and approved appropriately. One of the other changes is that procurement plans are only required procurements over $50,000 rather than $10,000, just to reduce covering for those smaller procurement activities. And additional clarification has been added. Confirm that contract award may be delegated to the chief executive over $1 million if that's been approved by the council resolution.
Oh, sorry, could I just add, pending your approval today, the key focus for the media and myself will be rolling this out across the organisation. And then there was another recommendation from the procurement order was around that governance oversight of procurement activities, so that will be stages and procurement. Any questions?
Any questions? All lining up? No? Okay. You've all read it?
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you. And yeah, there's, I think the key thing with that better order risk was that to make sure that it is well known and understood, because we've seen the media, some procurement issues that have been raised elsewhere, and we don't want to be in a situation. So it's all right to have these policies, but they need to be understood and used, otherwise they're a waste of time. Recommendations are there on page 357 that we received the report, notes the recommendation from the Audit and Risk Committee, that the procurement policy be adopted and adopts the revised policy. Someone like to move in that direction, please? Oh, they're all flying out. Sally, you're first. And Anna was next. You sure? Absolutely. You questioning me? Just make all in favour? Aye. Against?
I'm sure you're right.
Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. I feel much better knowing you're watching me.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, next item is 23.10.
Here to help Neil any chance.
2024 meeting schedule.
Wait, gee, this will be exciting. I mean, I can't wait.
It's the highlight of the morning.
It can well be.
Do shut up.
Good morning, everyone. I take the report as read. This is the meeting schedule for 2024. It's currently doing the rounds of community boards and also council. Highlights, if you want to call them that. Our meetings are continuing to be last Wednesday of the month. Hearings panel continue to be the second Tuesday of each month. Made a slight change for this one. Or the audit and risk meetings we'll just make sure that they're not on the same week as a council meeting, because the last meeting, I think members of audit and risk in the week had to read about 13 to 1400 pages, which really wasn't feasible. I suppose I'm certain everyone read everything feverishly, but it will take them a very long time. In March, you'll see that the council meeting is the week before the last Wednesday. And what we've done is get rid of any meetings that were on that 3-day week, because staff and elected members alike would probably like to go on holiday to have three days of annual leave and get 10 days off. So we've moved everything up 1 week.
Good, thank you.
And the final thing is May. We're not quite sure what that looks like right now, so we've just put them in as a placeholder, for lack of better words. And that's for a longer plan. But once we've actually figured out what we're going to do with that, which is coming at, I think, the next meeting. Yes. Yeah. So at the moment, I've just got it there as a placeholder until we find something else. Any questions?
No, anybody got any questions? My recommendation is that we receive the report and adopt the proposed 24 meeting schedule. So I'd like to move, please. Cheryl. We're all queuing up. Ian.
A3 colour copies will be available in front desk.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And copies of that will be available if you wish to attach it to a notice board.
Right, thank you. Let's move on to agenda item number 23.10.11, which is the register of delegations review and update. That's also your report. Wayne, are you going to take us through up on the screen the changes, or how are you going to do it?
Well, I've see in the report there.
Yep.
I've been able to cheat, and after I created the agenda, I was able to put in what page number it was. So we can go through each page number.
Yep.
And have a look at what I've done. But just before that, now this was a piece of work that was asked of us earlier this year. You remember? So what we've done is we've gone away, had a look at it in its entirety, how the document talks to each other, you know, all that sort of stuff. Made sure that if it said this, that it was this, or if it said that, it was supposed to be that. And this is what we've come up with.
That one has identified. We haven't made significant changes to the CEO delegations part, because we recall a few years ago when we split out the registered delegations and the staff delegations manual. There's a wee little tidy up that needs to happen within the staff delegations manual that we're working on now, and of course that needs to talk to the CEO delegation. So once that piece of work's done, we will bring back in its entirety, so you can see that.
Cool. All right, if you just tell us the page number to go to one, that'd be good.
Yeah, so 454 is the first one on 19. All we've done is just expand that to actually say what the act is. Yep. 458. Again, what we've done is just expand everything out. So if instead of just putting LTP everywhere, we'll put long-term plan. Let's see, page 460. Yeah. Okay, it hasn't made its way into this. I must have changed it after I've produced this. But in the Power to Act number 3 of Power to Act, we've included reserves and naming of reserves.
Okay, that doesn't show that in the,
No, it doesn't,
so it should,
but I have done that.
yeah, so number 3 should say, and the naming of reserves.
Yeah, reserves, and I think I put in brackets including the naming of
Yeah.
reserves.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
something like that. 461. I've just added this for clarification, limitations on authority, overall strategic plans. Although I suppose it's understood that annual and long-term plans are overall strategic plans, I've actually physically written them out, so it can't be misunderstood. What's that one?
Wayne, I just got one on 463, which you probably haven't got. Tibet Valley Community Board, we were going to put one representative on the Tibet Valley Walkways Committee
Oh, yeah,
after it moved off
That's right.
from the board, and that just hasn't been added in.
I'll move, I'll add that. And it was a liaison, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Um, 465. We've changed that round to actually reflect what actually happens in hiring the audit and risk chair. And so for the last 2 times, so for, well, I guess for its existence, Linda, certainly with her reappointment and the appointment that's just happened, has used this newer representation of people. And so I've changed that to reflect that that's the fact.
I think it does that. It doesn't read very well. Am I missing something? And look, it's still,
Yeah, one councillor, one is
leadership team will select and recommend a candidate to council for its certification.
Yeah.
Then it's got there's a full stop there.
Yeah, there's a full stop there. The appointment of the committee member / chair will be made each triennium following the year of the election or as required.
Is there maybe a heading missing in that appointment of chair?
I can put it there.
That might be.
Okay, yeah,
Makes
so
sense then.
appointment of chair, yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yep, I can add that. So that's that one. 467. I've moved executive committee out of special committees because it's not, it's a standing committee. So I've, once I edit the formatting and whatnot, I can move that up to be part of the standing committees. For the assessment committee, I've changed meeting frequency to as funding allows, because you'll remember, Tony, you'll remember that there was an extra round because more money came in. So I've changed it just to reflect the fact that if there's more money, there's more meetings. So 469. That doesn't seem to have thingy Bobby done the track change, but it's in the constitution. It's making sort of making sure that it's known that the chief executive has delegated the authority to appoint a commissioner, and that's just making sure that that's understood, and the RMA allows that. Uh, 472.
Sorry, I just go back to page 417 under the hearings panel. It's got a highlight on keeping with sections 39 to 42.
Oh, sorry, that's for my own thing, just to make sure that the sections are going to match up. Otherwise, it'll be referring to wrong sections.
Yes, cool.
Yeah. So 470.
471?
470, yeah, 471. I've actually missed that out of this in the discussion, but what we've done is just expand. So instead of saying dog control, we've actually said we're doing this under the Dog Control Act 1996. Likewise below, just adding what the actual physical title of the legislation is. So it's better understanding. Moving to 472, the District Licensing Committee. We've made a few changes there. Our meeting frequency, because it's essentially as required as opposed to monthly or as required. The constitution, we've checked to make sure that was correct. So it's the chair or commissioner and 2 district licensing committee members that and also that the quorum is 3 as opposed to no less than 2, which sounds a bit weird. Anyway, and then further down, there's just some further clarity around what specific sections of the Act those things are enforcing.
So just a question whether we need to clarify just what is, what the Constitution says that the Commissioner and 2 district licensing committee members.
Yeah.
Is that how those members are appointed? That's not covered in here? Because we're doing that differently now, aren't we?
Well, there was the thing the other day, wasn't there? So I can add something about how.
Well, because it's not being done, all the other stuff in here is pretty well done at the start of the triennium by the council.
Yeah.
Unless we intend to appoint our commissioners as part of that process, because the process we've used this year has been a little bit different. We've changed how we're doing it. So I'm wondering if that constitution, I'm going to not suggest we change it on the fly now, but we need to probably just make sure it's quite clear about it. And that's almost to me as an overriding thing for these delegations things, is actually how we do the appointments in the first place and whether that's actually covered. And if it's not by way of a resolution, through at the start of the triennium, just to make sure we don't get ourselves in a situation where, well, this is how we've done it, but there's nothing that actually supports that.
Okay.
And we can definitely note that when we bring it back with the CEO delegation studied up, we can bring that back.
Louise?
Yeah, I agree with that, because if you don't do that, then you need to put a report at the end of the triennium, putting in arrangements so that it will continue.
Yeah. And the other thing too is I've just got a funny feeling some of the DLC work can be done by the chair on the papers. So we've got a quorum in here of 3. So I know last.
So this is for hearing purposes.
Well, again, it probably needs to be quite clear in that respect. Yeah, because they're.
Oh, I think they're also doing work on.
Oh, yeah, I thought I did a whole. The chairman, is still being deputy chair. I did a whole lot last week.
Yeah.
So, just want to make sure we just get ourselves in the right space.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's the issue. Yeah. More hearing, isn't it?
Yeah. Because the committee doesn't necessarily do a lot of hearings as such.
No.
Sometimes it just does stuff in the meeting. It's not quite a hearing.
Unless in chambers,
Yeah, there's a bit, yeah. It's a really weird outfit to be part of.
in your office.
The hearing. No, lost the district licensing committee. It's. Yeah.
The next one was on page 481. This is delegation to staff. Clause 51 talks about the appointment of the chief executive officer, but I don't think that it actually needs to be there in that section. It's covered by the legislation. Yeah, that's right.
That's it. Any delegations, it's a process to do it. Yeah, that probably reflects the time that was first done back in 1989 when the government was reformed. Louise probably wrote it.
So page 482, this is down on employment of staff. Now 56 and 57 used to be one clause and it didn't make sense. Well, in my view anyway, it didn't make sense. So I split them out. What it was the second section, according to my notes here, and the second section didn't actually form part of LGA 2002, so it didn't make any sense for it to be together. So I split them out and then changed the sentence around to make it what I thought the outcome that it wanted was. That one.
And again, this is the area that may well be revised to reflect The work being done that Saskia was talking about.
Potentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
And again, I just don't the risk that if stuff doesn't need to be in there, that's already provided for, then there should be a note referring to that particular section and it shouldn't go into regular detail.
And we skipped over on that page 54. We had what the CEO can delegate to staff, but we didn't have in there what the CEO was delegated to do. So you'll see Wayne's just put in as per what you authorised the chief executive to do. On that.
So on page 483, we've just put an additional title that's spilled over to the next page. Other Resource Management Act 1991 provisions, because there was just some random bits and pieces there, and we've taken away. This in the next one. We've taken away the thing referring to the civil defence because it had nothing to do with RMA, and we've put it further down in its own little section. Also on that page 484 is the one called minor property dealings. We'll change that to minor operational property dealings to reflect the fact that those things are operational things. So I know that we have in the past brought easements and leases and whatnot to community boards, but we really didn't have to, according to this in the delegations, and it's always been there. So I think we'll just change that to operational to reflect the fact that those are operational things, and they can be signed off by the CEO.
Yeah, that's a minor.
If they're minor, well, yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that. Because you know what's going to happen, don't you? Someone said that wasn't minor.
Well, it does. It does talk about what that could be,
yeah.
And it doesn't. The other thing was that it doesn't include Minister of Conservation consent, of course, which is council, and it also doesn't include, as far as I am aware, airport reserve, which is also restricted for council.
Yeah, cool. Makes good sense.
What about the operating hours you see there?
Yeah, so operating hours, we have just changed that to make it any council facility, because just to clarify that's what it was. So so there can be the CEO can be in control of any operating hours within council facilities.
Well, that sort of things come back to us at times.
Well,
need to.
No, that's actually the answer. It shouldn't need to.
Dead right.
Yeah.
It's going to make it awkward bit,
Well, actually, when you look at some of the polls and stuff like that, we're about to see it makes a decision easily. So pay attention there.
Over to page 485, what we've done here under authorised officer delegations and warrants is just clean it up a little bit to reflect changes of titles and whatnot there. And also on that page, just updating the Litter Act that we're currently enforcing.
Can I just make a suggestion? Because you're using titles and I hate to think this has to come back to us because we change the title. So can we put a word in the equivalence of subject, just to provide for the fact that the title changes, you've still got the scope to do it without having to have the delegations register approved by council?
Well, I can find out because I'm not certain that is.
Yeah,
I think it might have to be a named.
Yeah, if there's a way of actually saying, well, because he wants to change the the group manager, whatever it is, to something else.
Yeah.
Or the property facility officers, wants to call them managers.
Yeah.
We don't want to be tripped up on that, and I don't see why that sort of stuff would have to come back here if it's minor in nature. So if you can find some words to fix that,
okay. I
don't think we would have any problem with that. Excellent. Yeah, if you're allowed. It may not be, so you can whatever you want. Wow. Emotions. What's this? Oh, the liquor act's been updated from 1968, it's simply not.
Yeah,
We've been wrong for that long.
yes, yes, we have.
That's me.
Um, so that civil defence one has moved, to one called civil defence and emergency management, which was already there. Then if we move down to sale and supply of alcohol.
Do you need to change that to the Act as well, since you've changed all the others?
Which one?
Where you've got the title Civil Defence and Emergency Management, should
Yeah.
it say Act 2020 like you've done for all the others?
Well, I could.
Yeah, probably would.
Just for
Yeah, okay.
continuity's sake.
Yes.
Well done. Did well, Wayne, leave that entertainment upon. Chocolate fish and milk.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
she
I
got
thought to myself, oh, what can I leave? Yeah, and the sale and supply of alcohol, I just, include, it was a bit, the wording I thought was a bit clumsy, so I just added, has the authority to. And
And the vehicles,
where is Joe?
abandoned vehicles on that page 37 here,
Yeah.
286. That's probably a bigger issue than we deal. Why can't the chief executive have authority to deal with it?
Delegated down.
It's delegated.
Delegated to.
So it is technically delegated to the CEO, who then delegates it down. Yeah.
And one of the intriguing things within the delegations is, we have CEO delegations that sit here, then we delegate them in this other staff manual, but at points here, we're delegating to like the parks and recreation manager, so we're not consistent, so we do the cleanup of this section, in conversation with Peter, there could be a much better way to represent this and then have the full delegations within the staff manual, but that's, a discussion still to have.
So I think what we're really saying is that doesn't need to be here. Can it be somewhere else? But I
Which
think
could actually be.
from an overall big picture point of view, though, the governance arm might want to know what delegations the chief executive has moved down.
Yeah.
And it may, don't know if we do or don't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Also on that page, the clause immediately below it was out of date, so I just deleted that because that was a temporary measure and it's now no longer needed. And a couple below there, it's just helping to make it clearer who the secretary of the district licensing committee is under the Act, and it's the CEO. So what it's saying is that the group manager, planning and infrastructure can sign these things, but they're not the secretary. The secretary is the CEO. So that's what that makes sense. And
Why did you say that then?
well, because it's what's defined in the Act. So we've said, this is what's defined in the Act, it's the secretary.
Get back to the next one. Every chance 1962.
And that is, all of the amendments that we've, picked up, and so we're happy with them.
Very thorough.
I'll change all the formatting around, after the meeting, and if you saw any highlights in yellow and didn't know what they meant, they're my, editing notes, so I don't forget stuff.
Thanks, Wayne, thanks for taking us through. Recommendations on page 446, which is received the report, notes the proposed changes as presented in the appendix 1. Do we need to just add to that, as presented and revised today, and adopts the updated registered delegations coming into effect on 26th October 2023. Payment. Sally. Well, we're going to say something else, and I tried to do two words at once. It was never going to work. All those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to the status reports, which is item number 23.10.12. Anything, what have we got in there? Wrong one. The October governance report, please take this, we need to be, any questions, comments? No, someone to move and be received? Ian? Second, Cheryl, all in favour? Against carried. Committee board minutes, on number 12, page 516. Anything out of any of that? Someone move and receive then, please. Stu and Ian, all in favour? Carried. Date of the next meeting. Well, let's have a look. 31st October.
Next week.
This week, I use two. So it's one.
Yeah.
That's the annual report.
Annual report.
Everything's next after that, that's.
It was seen in November. End of November.
Right, someone moved that we go into public excluded for the reasons identified. Sarah and Tamer, all in favour? Against carried. Public excluded.
It's just scary.
Yep, just, yep.
Brilliant. You short meetings.